as promised, y'all wanted to hear the story about me going to New York when I was 13 years old to compete in a pageant at the Apollo Theater. I was talking about it on my live yesterday, so people wanted to hear the story, so here it is. All of us remember what it's like when you're 13 years old. We're babies. But I was a very talented young kid, and my family threw me into a lot of pageants. This pageant specifically, which you can Google actually, is Hal Jackson's Talented Teens International, is what the pageant was called. I entered into a pageant here at 13 years old. The people who ran the pageant heard me sing for something else. I was in a gospel singing group as a kid, so I always was singing and performing. They saw me. They asked me to enter into the pageant. I auditioned. I made it. We did the pageant here in Omaha, Nebraska at the Joslyn Art Museum, and I won. It was a really big deal. I was on the news. I was in Word Up magazine. If y'all remember Word Up magazine, it was an incredible experience. So at 13 years old, my family sent me to New York because winning was, at that time, was really a big deal. It was like baby Miss America for black folks. You know what I'm saying? It was the kind of a big deal. The fact that my family sent me to New York with no parental supervision, nobody in my family, an adult that I know and trusted, came with me. My grandmother sent me with the woman who was running the pageant. May she rest in peace, but she was one of the biggest scammers in Omaha, Nebraska. Later found that out. But she sent me with her. There was an amazing singing group in Omaha, Nebraska at the time called Essence. They were on the verge of making it, of blowing up. They were like in vogue. They was the shit. They had an audition for Blackstreet in New York at the same time that I had the pageant. So me, Essence, that's 4 people, the lady who ran the pageant, Corla, Miss Kansas, and Miss Iowa, and they mamas all rode in a van to New York. We didn't fly. We rode in a van from Nebraska to New York, which took over 24 hours. It was horrible, but we made it to New York. When we got to New York, you know, my family, I didn't have the stuff that the other girls had. The other girls had these amazing, big, beautiful, you know, evening gowns. Their hair and their makeup was extravagant. I didn't have none of that. I didn't have, everybody's mom was with them and practicing with them and make sure I was by myself. By myself. The only thing that I had was my talent. And my talent, it was big, but it wasn't big enough to get, you know, the judges' attention, because you could plainly see that it looked like I was the poor one at the pageant because my dress was mediocre. Everything about my whole performance was mediocre until I opened up my mouth to sing. I was only 13. I was scared. I was nervous. It was lights, cameras, action. We had this whole dance routine, and it was a big production. It was a big deal. You know what I mean? Celebrities was there. It was a very scary time. It was exciting, but I was also scared because everybody had a parent with them. I didn't. And of course, nobody's going to help me. Other parents heard my voice. So they were not going to help me with my hair, with my makeup, help me with my dress. Like, I literally had to do all of those things by myself. The lady who ran the pageant, who my family sent me with, her focus was Essence. Her focus was Essence. They was getting ready to make it, so she needed to be with them. They was with Blackstreet and they was doing their thing. She left me with Miss Kansas and Miss Iowa's chaperones and the daughters for them parents to help me. And of course, they're not going to help me. They're trying to make sure their kid win. Even with that experience, I will never forget. Matter of fact, TikTok helped me find her. Her name is Ebony Mack. I will never forget her. She was the other 13-year-old. And it was an international pageant. So it wasn't just girls from the United States. All 50 states was represented, but we had St. Kitts and Nevis. We had the U.S. Virgin Islands. The girl who won the year before was from U.S. Virgin Islands. She was a tap dancer. She was incredible. She was incredible. So the girl who won the year that I went, I remember her specifically. Her name was Ebony Mack. She was 13, just like me. They kind of slighted us. She saw that I was like kind of by myself, and she was friends with me. She was nice to me. She could sing her ass off. Now, I feel like had I had an adult with me and had the right dress and had the right hip, I definitely could have won. But this girl, Ebony, this young lady could sing her ass off. I never seen her or talked to her since that day, but I remember she won that pageant. She was 13 and she was a singer. People had all kind of talents. Tap dancers, singers, instruments players, the Jamaican drums, all kind of talent. It was an experience of a lifetime, but the fact that I had to do all of that alone, I was never violated or assaulted or anything like that when I was in New York. It's New York. I was scared as hell when we was going on all of our little adventures. Like, my family sent me with $200, and immediately $100 of that came up missing the day that we got there. And I was there for a whole week. When we would go to different places and stuff, and people would be buying stuff, I'm only 13. I don't know what to, you know what I'm saying? My family was so focused on me winning and getting to the bag, because I never lost before. So they was banking on me winning. This was the big deal, though. This wasn't a local pageant. This was the big one. We took pictures. Like I said, they put us in Word Up magazine. When I got back to Omaha, like, they had a little parade. I was on Channel 3 and Channel 7 News. I was going to McMillan Junior High. And make it so bad is the person who SA'd me, y'all know him, Rodney, him and my cousin, his wife, they witnessed all of this. My grandma would make me practice, because we had to have a section of the pageant where you had to have on like workout gear, and we had to do like a little dance and shit. I would practice in the living room in my grandma's house all the time, and her and him was there. My aunt, that's the devil, and her husband at the time was there. Like, everybody was banking on me to make it, and I didn't. And now I feel, now that I'm a mother, I actually have a 13-year-old in this moment, okay? She can't even spend the night over her best friend's house, let alone going to New York on her own. I wouldn't give a fuck how talented she is. I wouldn't care how talented she is. My daughters ain't moving without me or their father with them. You understand? So I feel that's a different form of protection. That's a different level of unprotection, if you will. Because sending your 13-year-old child all the way to New York by themselves, even though nothing happened to me while I was there, okay? But just the fact that they thought that was okay, man, you don't really realize the shit that you, the shit you've been through, or the shit that has happened to you. You don't realize the gravity of it, the density of it, until you become a parent yourself. And then you be like, what the fuck? That's how I be. That's how I be. Like, I was such an unprotected, and I wasn't the only one. There was so many people in my family that was unprotected before me. I'm just the only one bold enough to talk about it. But y'all wanted to hear the story about New York. And let me say this before I go. So when we was in the dressing room back there changing, Subway, the group, here they come down the stairs, and we like, oh my God, what is these boys doing here? Y'all get out, get out, get out. Once we get to getting dressed, we doing our evening gowns, we backstage, we waiting. They go out there to perform, and we was like, oh my God, that was the motherfucking Subway. Even though they still shouldn't have been down there while we was getting dressed. But I was like, oh my God, that was my first time really being around celebrities. I've been around a whole lot of them. That shit ain't shit. But at 13, I was like, oh my God. But yeah, it was an experience. It was that was like my first real I almost made it experiences, because I got 1,000 stories. But yeah. And the Showtime at the Apollo, the real one, oh my God, what a fucking experience. But yep, that's the story, y'all.